The Tennessee wide receivers last football season were a massive disappointment, but the Tennessee wide receivers this year are going to be a strength. I'll tell you why here on a Wednesday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is Locked On Vols, and I am your host, Cain. Can't thank you enough for being here and making us a part of your morning routine, your morning commute to work, to the gym, to the track, wherever you guys may be going right now. Maybe you're listening to it later in the day, whatever the case is. Appreciate you guys making Locked On Vols your first listen. Shout out everydayers and making this show what it is. Big shout out to GameTime today for bringing us part of the coverage. GameTime, you can download that GameTime app, create an account, use the promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That is by downloading the GameTime app. Today, most improved position group for Tennessee is going to be the wide receivers in 2024. I'll tell you why here in a moment. Segment 2, boy, there's a big one at the Food City Center coming up later tonight. Tennessee is hosting Auburn, and Bruce Pearl will get you set for that one. And then Ward Wednesday, we'll talk a ton of Tennessee basketball with Josh Ward in segment number 3. So it's no secret, the Tennessee wide receivers in 2023, this past football season, just a massive disappointment. And I understand that you're coupled there. I mean, you don't get good quarterback, or you don't get good receiver play without decent quarterback play. You don't get, good quarterback play without some receivers helping you out as well. And so I'm not trying to say that it was all on the wide receivers, nor am I trying to say that it was all on Joe Milton. Joe Milton, again, did a whole lot of things. He and Hendon Hooker making it 3 straight seasons of a combined 3,000 yards, and Tennessee hasn't done that in a long time. Joe Milton certainly did not have the horrific season that a lot of fans and national media want him to wanted him to have. Am I going to say that he was an all-star? Heck no, he was far from it. But was he as bad as some of the quarterbacks that have been here in the last 15 years? Heck no. I mean, come on, guys. Don't be spoiled here from Hendon Hooker. He was a superstar. There's only one Hendon Hooker out there. And so, my point is, though, I do think the quarterback position will be better in 2024 with Nico. I just think Nico's got more tools in the belt. Again, I always harp on the escapability, the ability to extend plays, throw on the run himself. We saw that in the Citrus Bowl. I think Tennessee is going to be more dynamic on offense, and thus I think the wide receivers are going to have a big year. I mean, Jalen Hyatt won the Biletnikoff. Chances were you weren't going to have a Biletnikoff Award winner in 2023, right, to follow that. But you thought Bru McCoy would have a standout season because he was the second leading receiver in 2022. He got hurt after 5 games. You thought Ramel Keyton, who really burst onto the scene and was one of those unsung heroes for Tennessee in the 2022 season, the year they won 11 games and went on to win the Orange Bowl. He took a ginormous step back as a senior, and it's unfortunate. He still led the team in touchdowns. I mean, receiving touchdowns. He had, 6 receiving touchdowns, I believe? Yeah, Ramel Keyton had 6 receiving touchdowns, one more than McCallan Castle as a tight end who had 5. But overall, he lacked confidence. Stemming from that first game against Virginia where Joe Milton aired it out, he was wide open down the far numbers and dropped just a catch that was perfect to him. And I think from then it just really kind of worked at his nerves, worked at his confidence a little bit throughout the rest of the season, because the Ramel Keyton we saw in 2023 was a lot of the Ramel Keyton that we saw in previous seasons, and not the guy that stepped up for an injured Cedric Tillman. Your leading receiver in 2023, and this is a positive, was Squirrel White. I thought he was phenomenal out of the slot, 67 receptions. I believe off the top of my head, don't quote me, but that is as many receptions that Jalen Hyatt had as well. Now, Jalen Hyatt had over 1,200 yards receiving and had 15 touchdowns. The difference, Squirrel White had 803 yards, which is not bad, but he only had 2 touchdowns. You wish that he would have had a couple more touchdowns. One of those touchdowns that comes to mind, probably his first of the season. Goodness gracious, at Tuscaloosa, what a catch there in the front corner of the end zone. But Squirrel White was a positive. Played all 13 games, 67 receptions, nearly doubled the amount of receptions as Ramel Keyton, who finished second on the team with 35. 67 receptions, 803 yards, 12 yards per catch, 2 touchdowns. That's a solid year. He averaged about 61 yards receiving a game. I expect Squirrel White to again be a leader of Tennessee's offense. I once again expect Squirrel White to be a focal point of the passing game for Nico Iamaleava. But you won't have Ramel Keyton, who finished second in 2023 with 35 receptions, 642 yards, 6 touchdowns, which again is good. But you implement maybe a Chris Brazzell, who again, as a true freshman, had over 700 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns for a top 25 team in Tulane, albeit as a group of 5. Competition level is going to be, turned up a notch, if you will. And so Chris Brazzell, I think, can work into the fold, but I am being cautious because Dante Thornton, I was so high on, and I'm still high on Dante Thornton. And he just didn't pan out until they bumped him to the outside. And we know Dante Thornton had a really good game against Kentucky, did some things against UConn, and then he got hurt after hauling in a great touchdown reception, adjustment to the ball into the end zone, turned his ankle, was out for the rest of the season. And so you'll have Chris Brazzell, who is a prototypical outside option in this offense, Dante Thornton, who is an outside option in this offense, Bru McCoy, who continues to post pictures on Instagram of his rehab, and he looks like he's getting close, and I would assume that he's not going to do anything in spring, but that's fine. He doesn't need to, but his recovery is truly remarkable considering to put it frankly, considering what direction his ankle was pointing at the time of the injury. Hope you kept your breakfast down on that one. And then you've still got Chaz Nimrod. You still have Caleb Webb, who stepped up and did some things, specifically Chaz Nimrod, who I thought did a lot of good things when he was stepping up in times of need of injury for Tennessee's wide receivers. You add in Mike Matthews, who's a 5-star. Speed is underrated. High point athleticism, going up and get the football. Nice route runner. Braylon Staley as well, who I think is one of the more underrated wide receivers in this class. You've got a lot of cooks in the kitchen, if you will. My question is this, though. After spring practice, does Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb look at each other and say, man, it might be a lot of the same story as last year? We see significant playing time due to injury? Or do we think we have an opportunity to fight and battle and try to carve out some snaps there in this offense? We know that when healthy and everything's humming, Tennessee plays 3 receivers. Tennessee was forced to play more receivers last year due to injury and due to the lack of production. So I'm not going to say there's no chance for those guys to play, but you do have a second transfer portal window that will open for about 15 days after spring practice. And I'm curious, there's a lot of guys there. What's Dante Thornton's mindset? Dante Thornton, who I think still can break through and be the guy that we thought he could be when coming in prior to last season. But he's been recruited over. It's not going to be handed to him anymore. He's going to have to go out and earn it, and I do think that he ended last season on a high note, but due to the multi-transfer waiver that was passed a couple of months ago, he's free to leave if he wants to. What's his mindset going to look like? I don't know. But even if you lose a Thornton or a Nimrod or a Webb, I still like the collection of receivers that you have. Bru, Squirrel, Brazzell, you know what you got there. Well, you don't know what you got in Brazzell, but there's 3 solid guys who have been productive and done it before. At least, Brazzell at the group of 5 level. And at the very minimum, you have Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley, who I like a lot, who are coming up. I'm not saying you're going to lose 3 in Thornton, Webb, and Nimrod, but if you were to lose one of those guys, you feel better about the options that you have now. And because of the better quarterback play at times, I do think Tennessee's wide receivers are going to be better. I think Dante Thornton, if he, when he plays, he'll be on the outside. He's more comfortable. He clearly showed that. Bru McCoy's a steadying force. Squirrel White's a good slot receiver. We'll see what Brazzell can do. I think Nimrod took a step. I think Webb took a step. Let's see what these freshmen got. I just think that these guys will be playing with more confidence. There's more in numbers, if you will, and I do think that the quarterback play will be better. And so you couple all that to say that I think Tennessee's position group that's going to be most improved in 2024 is easily the wide receivers. Number 2, I would say quarterback, because they kind of go hand in hand. Number 3, I would say linebacker, because you hope that you have 2 starting linebackers that are healthy throughout the entire season. I did not think Tennessee's linebackers are very good, albeit they were hit with the injury bug. One game for Keenan Peely, he was out the rest of the year. Aaron Beasley was hurt all year long. You could tell. Elijah Herring got thrown in the fire, and he was kind of baptized by fire and learning on the go. All those guys are more experienced, so I think linebacker will be improved as well. And then secondary, I just have no clue because it's a complete overhaul. I have no clue, literally. TBD on the secondary, because I need to see some spring and some fall camp. I have no clue. Who do you think, which position group do you think Tennessee will be most improved at in 2024? Mine is hands down the wide receivers. Easily, I think it's going to be the most improved position unit. Maybe on tomorrow's show, we'll talk about the position group that's going to take the biggest hit from 23 to 24, something that we need to be prepared for, and some guys that will need to step up into the spotlight and carry that torch for Tennessee. We'll discuss that maybe on tomorrow's show. But wide receivers, tell me where I'm wrong, @_Cainer and @LockedOnVols. Hey, when we come back, we're going to get you set for Tennessee and Auburn. What a big showdown at the Food City Center that is coming up tonight, but we'll talk about it here coming up next on Locked On Vols. GameTime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, all your music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, new users, if you put in the promo code LOCKEDONVols, or Locked On rather, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for all kinds of events in your area. Views from your seats in the same venue, even the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection. They have your back. All-in prices show your total up front so you know exactly the great deal that you're getting before you check out. GameTime has the deals and tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find your last-minute tickets. And again, it's not just for sports, it's for concerts, theater, monster truck rallies, whatever the case is over the Food City Center. You can buy tickets to those events over on the GameTime app. Terms apply. Just download the GameTime app, put in that promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. We'll talk about Tennessee and Auburn coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. Big game coming up tonight at the Food City Center. We've got number 4 Tennessee playing host to number 11 Auburn. Obviously, it's a big matchup because it kicks off the final the final 2-week stretch of the regular season that we've talked about for quite some time. You got Auburn at home. You're going to Tuscaloosa, battling at the time right now to the two teams that are tied for first place in the SEC regular season standings. You go on the road to South Carolina, and then you come back home and welcome Kentucky to finish off the regular season. Now, Auburn is a good basketball team. Bruce Pearl, we know, is a good coach. Auburn's number 11 in the country, 21-6 overall in the season, 10-4, one game back of both Tennessee and Alabama, which are tied for the lead in the SEC. So, the ESPN matchup predictor gives Tennessee a 67.3% chance of victory. That's good. At the time of this recording, I don't have a line courtesy of FanDuel, but Tennessee's likely going to be a favorite at home against Auburn. You almost for sure imagine about that. Auburn is number 5 in KenPom ranking. Auburn is number 7 in the net rankings. 3-2 in their last 5 are the Tigers. They had a loss to Kentucky, 70-59, and just got blown out a couple weeks ago on the road. It was a Saturday afternoon. Florida took it to them in Gainesville, 81-to-63. So, could similar results prevail for the Tigers on the road in a hostile environment in the SEC against a much better basketball team? We will see. We'll cross our fingers and see what happens. Johnny Broome, it feels like he's been there literally forever for Auburn. He leads the Tigers in points per game with 16, rebounds per game with 8.6. He's shooting 55% from the field. He's a really good basketball player, and Tennessee will obviously have to D him up and watch where he's at all times. Trey Donaldson, he's your knockoff brand of Zakai Zeigler, 3.2 assists per game, wherever Zakai's averaging about 6 assists per game. Auburn, you look at kind of the stats, put together here. Auburn averages 82.7 points per game, Tennessee 80.3. You've got Auburn that allows 67.3 points per game, Tennessee 66.6. Yikes, that's not a good number. Field goal percentage, Auburn 46.9, Tennessee 45.6. Rebounds per game, 38.6 for Auburn, 39.1 for Tennessee. Assists, 17.6 for Auburn, 17.3 for the Volunteers. And steals, 7.4 for Auburn, and 8.1 for Tennessee. So you look at pretty much even stats when you look at it kind of like that, right? Very evenly distributed teams in terms of the stats here. You look at some of the more in-depth scouting report for Auburn. So the Offensive adjusted efficiency rating for Auburn, 119.7 points per 100 possessions. That's 15th in the country. The adjusted defensive efficiency rating is 92.6 points given up per 100 possessions. That ranks 5th in the country. Solid basketball team. Auburn is shooting 34.1% from three-point range, which is really down considering where they've been under Bruce Pearl. How many times has Bruce Pearl just come and shot the three out of the gym when he's playing Tennessee and Rick Barnes here in recent memory? But this year, according to the stats, doesn't look as if this is a high-volume three-point shooting team. Now, they're good at defending the three-point line. Opponents are only shooting 29.6% from three against the Tigers. That's 13th best in the country. One of the best field goal percentage teams in the country from two-point land, 54.9. That's top 30. Good at defending that as well. 43.1 is what opponents are shooting against Auburn in two-pointers. That's 6th in the country. And again, just a solid basketball team, but I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. This is a big game for a number of reasons, obviously. Tennessee, you're trying to win the SEC regular season. You're still trying to put up your resume for getting a number 1 seed, though, again, I'll continue to stress here. It's cool to see that, but it's not everything. If you're a number 2 in the South, that's much better than being a number 1 in the West. I'm not saying Tennessee will be sent to the West, but I think that would make a whole lot more sense so that your fan base can travel and kind of give you a little bit of advantage or combat the opposing crowd from the other team that you're playing. But this game means more than just all that as well. Bruce Pearl's coming back. Food City Center. Had a different name when he was coach here, Thompson-Boling Arena. Bruce Pearl will be beloved forever for many Tennessee fans. Bruce Pearl will also be hated by many Tennessee fans. It was sour the way it ended. It was kind of silly the way it ended, but such is the NCAA and such is life sometimes. Bruce Pearl was the head coach at Tennessee when I was in middle school and high school for kind of that crossover there a little bit. He was a really good coach. Some exciting times. Took Tennessee to its only Elite Eight appearance in school history. I remember watching that game. A lot of fun games, but there were also some lows as well, some early round exits. Obviously, getting in trouble at the NCAA, that was a low. Lying about a recruiting visit, that was a low. But Bruce Pearl did a lot of good here at Tennessee. But since he's gone on and he spent a couple years broadcasting, and then he's been at Auburn, and he took over an Auburn team that was just atrocious, and he's built that program up, and they're a really good team under Bruce Pearl and have been for a while. And there's been a lot of battles between Bruce Pearl and Tennessee here lately. Going back to the 2018 season, I believe Bruce was there. I mean, Tennessee against Auburn since 2018, only 2 of 9. Tennessee has lost 7 of their last 9 matchups against Auburn. The 2 wins, 2022 season in Knoxville in the regular season, 167-62. Last season on the actually in Knoxville, lost again. Lost just a barn burner, 46-43. What a gross shooting performance in that game. But Tennessee won that game, excuse me. Those are the 2 wins. So Tennessee won one time last year and won one time in 2022. Also lost a time in Auburn last year, 79-70. But Tennessee's lost 7 of its last 9 matchups against Auburn. One time that comes to mind was the SEC tournament. I believe that was the championship game. It was it had to be that March 17, 2019 game. 84-64, the final score, where they just shot the daylights out of the three-point line. Yeah, that was a gross way to end a fun SEC tournament run. That's one that stands out back in the 2019 season. You've lost 1, 2, 3, 4 in Auburn, Alabama since 2018. You've lost 1, 2 in Knoxville during that stretch. So my point is, it's a team that's kind of got your number in the last 5-6 years. But in the last 3 games, Tennessee's won 2 of 3. So it's all about perspective, however you want to look at it. You don't want to let Bruce Pearl come back in here and win this basketball game. You don't want to let Bruce Pearl come back into this arena and win where he's won so many games. I think The more challenging game in this stretch is going to be on the road at Tuscaloosa. Obviously, it's on the road. You need to use your home court advantage to your liking. You need to win this game. You do not want to start this 2-week stretch off with a loss to Auburn and Bruce Pearl. Auburn's a good basketball team, but you're at home. It means so much more because it's Bruce, and you want to get that win. I think Tennessee fans are going to be fired up and ready for that. Let me leave you on this, and Josh Ward's going to talk about this here in segment 3 in a moment. I think it's a really, really good question to think about. Or maybe it's not. I tend to agree that these next 4 is the answer. Which is harder? You got to win 4 games to go to the Final Four. Would that run to the Final Four, competition-wise, be harder than these next 4 games Tennessee is going to conclude the regular season with? Now, once you get to the Final Four to win a championship, I mean, all bets are off. You get to the Final Four, obviously, it's a harder challenge. You tack on 2 more games during that run. Again, crazy things happen in the Final Four. But to get to the Final Four, is that stretch tougher? You don't know the opponents and all that, but they're all going to be at neutral sites. You're going to be playing a 15 seed or maybe a 16 seed in round 1 and then like a 7 or 8 or whatever. Is that stretch to get to the Final Four tougher than the 4-game stretch coming up here to end the regular season? I do not. So my point is, if Tennessee goes 3-1, if Tennessee goes 4-0, boy, you got to be feeling good about going into the NCAA tournament because, again, the SEC tournament, Sundays don't matter. Basketball, any team can win on any night. I recognize that. But this is a big one coming up tonight, and I can't wait to watch Tennessee take on Auburn at the Food City Center. Okay, when we come back, we'll get into Josh Ward. We'll talk more Tennessee and Auburn. We'll talk Tennessee basketball, talk a little Tennessee football, all that and more. It's coming up next with Josh Ward for Ward Wednesday. But I want to say about our friends over at FanDuel before we get to Josh Ward. You can get buckets on your first bet at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and NBA teams and college players and college teams. I just talked about March Madness. Just talked about the last 2-week stretch of the regular season for Tennessee. Talked about a run to the Final Four. You can put some coin in your pocket, have some fun, and a rooting interest in the game outside of just your big orange flavor over at FanDuel. Quick bets, live, same-game parlays, exclusive props, totals, over-unders, and a whole lot more. It's over at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Going to finish off a Wednesday show with Josh Ward. Ward Wednesday is what we call it. You can follow him on Twitter, Josh_Ward. You can listen to him on 99.1 The Sports Animal, noon to 3 in the Knoxville area and the Tri-Cities. Josh, a lot going on right now, but let's talk first with a little basketball. Tennessee hammers Texas A&M, gets that revenge, and Rick Barnes gets win number 800, a pretty neat accomplishment, and he's got about 160 or so of those at Tennessee.
His career has been terrific. In the video that Tennessee put out with other coaches around college basketball congratulating Rick, several of them referred to him as a Hall of Fame coach, and that is to be determined, but I think that is the case. He's been nominated, and I think when you look at 800 wins, success at every school that he's coached at, a Final Four, we'll see what else he might be able to add to the resume. This postseason will factor into that. He's been a terrific coach, and the other thing that a number of those coaches mentioned is that he's done it the right way. And the way that he has built or rebuilt programs in what they became and the people that surrounded those programs. And Rick Barnes changed along the way, and he talked about how he improved as a coach, how he related to players. He's just done so much. And if you look at the success Tennessee has had since Rick Barnes got things going in year 3 at Tennessee, they've been as good as any program in the conference, and they've competed with the best programs around the country.
Yeah, they have for sure. And Texas A&M certainly is not one of the best programs in the country, but Tennessee just made quick work of them the other night. 18-14 for Jonas Adu, which I feel like we're not talking about because Zakai Zeigler was a point and a rebound away from a triple-double, finishing 9-9 and 14 assists, no turnovers. And then Dalton Knecht just puts up 24 points and 7 rebounds, and nobody's talking about him.
Yeah.
Again, you're not going to get that type of effort every single game, but my goodness, Tennessee's humming. They were humming on Saturday night.
Yeah, we've talked about on the show, it looks like there's kind of the big three to lead the way, and that's Zakai Zeigler, Dalton Knecht, and Jonas Adu. That's not to say they're the only three important players. That would be foolish. What Vescovy does, the impact of Josiah Jordan-James, Jemai Meshak, and Tobe Awaka off the bench, Gainey when he gets going. When all of that comes together, Tennessee can beat any team in the country. Now, you're going to have some ups and some downs with each individual player. And when you get into the postseason, matchups matter and all of that. But it seems like Tennessee at its best is led by Zakai, who makes everything go on both ends of the floor. The 4 steals he had the other night against Texas A&M showed again what he's able to do on the ball, but also in other areas in defense. He's able to sneak in and take the ball away. He had 2 turnovers that he forced, one in the open court, one on the inbounds pass where he baited the passer. It was masterful. But Adu, when he is on as a force around the rim, as a putback guy on offense, if Knecht and Josiah drive to the basket, whether they finish or not, the chance of Tennessee finding success increases because Adu is there to help clean things up. And then I don't need to explain the impact Dalton Knecht has made on the offense. The Vols have the pieces, as we've talked about all season long, to go on a run. We'll get a better idea in the next 4 games, the next 2 weeks, whether that happens or not.
Well, that 3-week swing is over now where Tennessee needed to stack up wins. Did a pretty nice job going 5-1. Of course, you had the one letdown embarrassments on the road at A&M, but you got them back on Saturday night. But you go 5-1. Now the 2-week stretch to end the regular season begins tonight, and it's a big one. You got Auburn at home. You're on the road at Tuscaloosa. You're on the road at South Carolina, and then back home against Kentucky. Josh, what needs to happen for Tennessee to earn a number 1 seed over the last 2 weeks of the regular season and then in the conference tournament? Because I think we both can agree conference tournament championships don't matter because they haven't mattered for Tennessee in the past.
Yeah, I honestly kind of removed the conference tournament from the conversation.
The whole thing or just Sunday? Because it feels like decisions are made on Saturday and then that's it. So like maybe if you're an underrated team, you make a run, it would help you, but I guess it wouldn't really help Tennessee because they play, their first game on Friday.
Yeah, well, part of it is because I just don't know exactly what to make of the tournament. I don't know what the teams they're going to battle are going to do, so we have to make some pretty clear assumptions. So the one thing I would say is don't go one and done. Don't lose on Friday. Yeah, if Tennessee wins on Friday, then I'm not sure what Saturday or Sunday would matter. I don't even know what to add to that. I go in with the expectation that it doesn't make a difference. So what Tennessee can do in the final 4 games to close out the regular season is how I'm basing most of the conversation. To be a 1 seed, Tennessee has to go at least 3-1, maybe 4-0, which is a big ask. Going 4-0 in this stretch is tougher than what it takes to get to the Final 4. You have to go 4-0 to get to the Final 4. You get to play a 15 or 16 in the first round, then a 7 or a 10 or somewhere in that range, in the second round. So they're going to play 4 tournament teams. I think if Tennessee goes 3-1, it has a very good case for the 4th number 1 seed. That's part of the issue is it looks like it's Tennessee versus Arizona and maybe North Carolina. Carolina avoided a scare on Monday night against Miami. But the schedule that Tennessee's about to play in these final 4 games, if the Vols can win at least 3 games, really enhances Tennessee's case to be a number 1 seed. If Tennessee goes 4-0, I have no idea what you say to keep Tennessee out of the 1 seed spot. If Tennessee goes 2-2, there's nothing wrong with that, but that would probably eliminate Tennessee from 1 seed contention, considering it looks like Tennessee is trying to climb its way into that spot. But 3-1, if the Vols can do that, to me, they have a very good resume to be a 1 seed.
Coming up tonight, Bruce Pearl is coming back to Thompson-Boling Arena at the Food City Center. And it's an Auburn team that's pesky. It's an Auburn offense that has given Rick Barnes' defense some trouble throughout his career. What needs to happen for Tennessee to take care of business at home and get this 2-week stretch off on a right note?
Take care of the basketball on the offensive end. That was another part of how impressive Zakai Zeigler was the other night, not turning the ball over, knowing how involved he is and what role he plays with the basketball. If he's able to continue to create and make plays and Tennessee takes care of the basketball, they need more high-level play from Jonas Adu. Part of the conversation this season has been, okay, well, against teams with better front court players, that can create a challenge. Well, let's see with Broom for Auburn what kind of challenge that creates against Tennessee. If Adu can play well and they get enough offensive production from Josiah Jordan-James and Santiago Vescovi, and then I would kind of throw Gainey into that conversation. You don't ask for too much from any of those guys, but if they can be efficient in hitting shots, they'll be good offensively. Defensively for Tennessee, they're going to continue to apply pressure on the perimeter, try to keep Auburn from getting open shots, make them take tough shots on the road, because Tennessee has the home court advantage here. If Tennessee is able to do that, take advantage of the home crowd and limit and then force mistakes on the other side, Tennessee will win. If not, and Auburn feels good about how it's playing in the middle of the game, it's going to be a fight until the end of the second half.
Last question out the door. We'll talk football. Of course, spring practice is a couple of weeks away. I want to ask you, Josh, what is which position group is going to be the most improved in 24 compared to 2023?
The position group that will be most improved, I will say quarterback's interesting, but I will say wide receiver.
Yeah, I think it's obvious.
Yeah, wide receiver was based on how things went in 2022 and then the hope that existed for 2023 with the players that replaced that group was such a disappointment.
Yeah.
So there is some projection. Bru McCoy's health, Brazzell's impact as a newcomer, freshman with a ton of talent. But I think we'll see players who played last year be better, and the players that come in make the overall group better.
Yeah, and of course, quarterback has a lot to do with that as well. So if you get better quarterback play,
it goes together. I mean, quarterback play should be better because of the receivers and vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll kind of get our first glimpse of all that here in spring practice when it gets going here in less than, really just a little over 2.5 weeks, I guess. So it's coming on up here. Josh, appreciate it as always, man. You got the Josh and Swain newsletter coming out Friday morning at 8:30, and of course, Josh and Swain on the radio dials every day, noon to 3. What do you got coming up this week?
Yeah, a lot of hoops talk with what this Tennessee team is trying to do to close out the regular season, as we have discussed here. We are getting closer to spring, so the football talk never stops, especially with Swain being on the show. And count my typos. JoshandSwain.com to subscribe, or that link that you provide. I appreciate it. The newsletter is free every single Friday.
Yep, and you can subscribe for free to that newsletter by checking the link in this show description here today. Josh, as always, man, thank you so much.
You got it. Thanks, Eric.
And that's going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols, your Wednesday. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. Again, if you haven't already, tell that Vol friend, that Vol person in your life, friends, family, spouses. Locked On Vols is the place to get all the news of the day, 32 minutes or less, right here every single weekday morning. Plus, I'll give you a take of the day as well. And let's continue to grow this show. Appreciate Josh Ward for stopping by. We'll see how Tennessee fares against Auburn tonight. We'll talk about it all tomorrow, all that and more right here on Locked On Vols. We'll see you then.